Peace. What's happening, good people? This gift here for Pay Us No Mind. And today, we just running through the news, man. We just running through the news. We got Spotify claiming that they've paid, or not claiming, this is a fact, right? Spotify stating that they paid over $9 billion to the music industry and saying half of it went to independent artists. So half of $9 billion has gone to paying independent artists, so Spotify says. And Amuse is some of the biggest news, I would say, for some of you especially, right? That Amuse is killing their free tier. So the start tier that allow artists to distribute music for completely nothing is going away. That's coming to an end. As well as we got news about Impala, which is like indie label trade union kind of thing, asking Apple to lay off their plans with the spatial audio 10% increase thing. So we're going to talk about some of these things, man, and give opinions on them and all of that good stuff. Get your feedback. Now, for those that don't know how this go down, I run my mouth about the topic at hand for the first 10, 15 minutes. Then we get into the live chat where everybody get to ask questions and all of that good stuff. You know, now you can subscribe to the channel for whatever that's worth. Or if you want to support the channel, you can by donating through super chats, becoming members, things of that nature. A lot of the stuff that I'm covering here is going to be on the Pay Us No Mind website. So you could go and read some of the articles that I've written about these things there. Some of the other articles that belong to other platforms are going to be shared to my Twitter. So I'm going to check the system, make sure we're good to go. Then we're going to get into these topics and all of that good stuff. All right, good people? Okay, let me check this stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah. So you guys, let me know if y'all can hear me good before we dive in to the topics and all of this good stuff. Hit me with a thumbs up. We good to go. And then we going to launch. Yeah, man. So a lot of this news to me is kind of wild, you know, especially the Amuse news. All right. So let's get it popping. So first up, man, we got this Amuse news, man. So I wrote something about it on the Pay Us No Mind website. We got something written about it on the Pay Us No Mind website. But this was the email that they sent out, an email. And the email had the link to this statement that they wrote on it, this press release. And they're saying, why we're saying goodbye to our start tier and making Boost even better. Now it states, from March 27th onward, Amuse start accounts will become dormant. This means start users will no longer be able to release new music without upgrading to Boost or Pro. So basically, the releases that they've already, like if you've been using the Muse and you distribute through them, whatever you got there can stay there. They're not going to take it down. But anything new you want to release, you're going to have to upgrade to Boost or Pro in order to distribute anything new. And then they get into why, the motivation behind why they're doing it. They're saying the industry is changing. When the Muse launched in 2017, we set out to fuel the do-it-yourself and independent artist movement by making digital distribution as accessible as possible. Since then, we've had the pleasure of catering to hundreds of thousands. So this is just more fluff, right? Just basically being like, we really set out to accomplish a goal of helping indie artists get their music out there and making it accessible to everybody. But now that it's slightly inconvenient to us, we're going to ditch that whole motivation and just start charging you guys like everybody else is. So they're like, restriction of the start tier. From March 27th onward, Amuse start accounts will become dormant. This means start users will no longer be able to release new music without upgrading to Boost or Pro. How will this affect start users? As of March, previous start users, existing releases, and catalogs to date will remain live on streaming services and stores. Start users will need to upgrade to Boost or Pro to release new music. Start users will continue to have access to music insights, basically your statistical data. Start users will continue to be able to withdraw royalties and receive plus, accept early access and fast forward offers, right? The whole advanced thing that they tax you on that allows you to get your money up front and pay extra on the money that you were already going to get, right? So you got that whole thing. Now, what's interesting about this whole thing to me, man, is the most critical point to them taking away the free tier, I would say, for people who have pre-existing releases there is whether it's under the same terms. So the way that Amuse worked and why a lot of artists used them was because they were saying, hey, you get to distribute your music for free. We're not charging you an upfront fee, nor are we taking a cut on the back end. So you get to keep 100% of what you make, and we aren't charging you anything up front. So if they're switching to a paid system, but they're allowing your catalog to stay up, it's like, do you still get to keep 100%, or are they going to start taking a percentage of the revenue that your music generates because it's still there on their system? Now, I've reached out to Amuse and I've asked them, hey, do you guys plan to take a percentage of the music that you have on your platform remaining from the start tier? And they've yet to respond. You know, it's been like a day, so I'll give them some time. But as soon as I hear back, then I'll update the article that I wrote on this in the Pay Us No Mind website, because I covered this and talk about why, like what the motivations behind it might be. Because the reality of the situation is with Amuse, they do not charge, right? That's the interesting thing about it. That's the interesting thing about Amuse. There is no percentage fee that they're charging. So technically, they don't have a dog in the fight. So they're citing industry changes. The only industry change has been Spotify implementing the monetization threshold. Outside of that, there hasn't been much change. So with Spotify implementing the monetization threshold, which really only impacts the artist, because it's like if you get under 1,000 streams for each song annually, then you don't make no money. But if Amuse wasn't taking a cut, that doesn't impact them, you know? So it's like, well, why would that cause them to discontinue the free tier? A decision that doesn't even impact them. Now, the reality of the situation is I told you guys in a previous live stream that free digital distribution was coming to an end. I said, hey man, this Spotify thing, a lot of these digital distributors that take a percentage on the back end, they're gonna die. It's gonna be over with, you know? And I don't know how many of you guys believed me or took heed, because I was telling y'all, get your music off of these free music distribution platforms. If you are looking at free digital distribution platforms, look away, you know, go to some place that's charging, because that's what the industry is shifting to, and free is going away. Now, we got receipts, right? So let me go back to this. Want to join, feel free. But yeah, man, now let's talk about the impact of Spotify's threshold on digital distribution and how that might impact things, you know? So it's like for most artists, and really a lot of these digital distributors, this could be the end of free digital distribution. Like all of these digital distributors that are like no upfront fee, we just take a percentage of revenue on the back end, 15%, 10%, whatever have you. That is going to be dead in 2024. So if you are with a digital distributor that takes a percentage of revenue, I would start looking for a new digital distributor. And Yeah, you see? I try to warn people. I tried to tell them. You know? Tried to tell them, man. But it is what it is, man. You know, and digital distribution is in flux right now. You see a lot of scrambling. You see a lot of them changing up their systems, doing certain things like TuneCore and their accelerator program. Again, something else we wrote about on the Pay Us No Mind website, just covering what that's going to do, you know, because everybody is trying to figure out, okay, how do we make money? How do we kind of like shift gears, expecting that a lot fewer artists will engage in digital distribution, being that they don't really see a pathway towards monetization like that. So everybody's kind of scrambling, right? The whole thing is in flux. So it's like the safest place to go is really with the people who charge the most money, because they're the least likely to change because they make enough to not have to change. Everybody else, that's kind of like, and this is what's interesting about what DistroKid did, right? Because DistroKid came in at a time when CD Baby was charging like, I think like $30 or $40 or something like that per release, plus the cost of like a UPC code and the UPC code cost additional. You had TuneCore charging you $50 per release per year. Like those companies was charging a lot of money for people to do digital distribution. And then DistroKid came and was like $20 a year for unlimited distribution. And that totally threw everything off because everybody went there. Like $20 and I could distribute as much music as I want. And that forced everybody else to adapt. So then you had all the other digital distributors start doing $20 a year for unlimited distribution. But at the same time, their systems, I don't think, are set up for that model. So DistroKid was configured for that. Like they might have virtual assistants. They cut a whole bunch of corners. Their service isn't like top notch. So there's a lot of corners that they cut to be able to sell their service for $20 a year. Whereas TuneCore and CD Baby and those companies are big companies with employees and customer service reps and all sorts of stuff going on. Like basically overhead, a lot of overhead that needs to be paid for. So it's like switching to a model where they don't make as much. It's like, oh, okay, well, those numbers start coming in at the end of the year. And it's like, damn, we ain't covering what it cost us to do business. Now we got to reconfigure and figure out a way that makes more money, you know, especially with the amount of artists that be distributing music and got it on their servers and things of that nature. Now, the other news here is Spotify and them with their whole, we paid $9 billion to the music industry, half of it went to indies. So let's talk about that. Oh, hold on. I forgot that was in my email. 1 minute, y'all. Let me get to that. Yeah, so with the Spotify news, right? They said last week, Spotify announced that it paid more than $9 billion to the music industry in 2023. Today, it has revealed how much of that money went to independent artists and labels. It's $4.5 billion. Yes, half of the streaming service's total payouts went to indies. This is what they're saying. Spotify added that this was a record total, not just for its service, but the highest amount indies have ever generated from a single retailer in 1 year. And that it's the first time independent music has accounted for 50% of its payouts. Spotify also said that the $4.5 billion paid out to indies last year is 4 times what they generated on its service in 2017. It's also noted that it accounts for more than 20% of global recorded music revenues, a note to the fact that this payouts figure is just a portion of overall independent revenue. Now, they also say for Spotify, this is part of a pitch to the independent sector that, in its words, it has leveled the playing field by enabling independent artists to access the same global audience and tools as the superstars. Now, They go on and talk about some other stuff I don't care about, but they say Spotify's announcement today also follows the disclosure in its latest annual report and music license and that music license to it by the three majors plus indie licensing agency Merlin accounted for. See, look, so the caveat here is that there's a difference between us as indies and like major indies. So you got indie labels like Big Red Machine was like a indie label. That was like Taylor Swift's label before she left the Universal. Now Taylor Swift was a huge artist, but they classified her as indie. And even going back to like Drake, when he had that album, So Far Gone, right? The mixtape. That mixtape had Lil Wayne on it. It had Bun B on it. Basically, he was like a signed artist that quote unquote wasn't signed, right? He was independent. And there was a big thing because back then you had like a lot of music conferences and stuff like that going on. Hold on. One minute, y'all. Yeah, you had a lot of music conferences and stuff like that going on, you know, where you had music conferences and stuff like that going on where people were complaining. People were complaining because on the panels, you had the digital distributors and people who were trying to sell services to independent artists. They needed them to believe that there was the possibility that they were going to be rich and famous and megastars as independent artists without the labels. So they were highlighting Drake and using him as like a use case and being like, well, if you look at Drake and the success of Best I Ever Had and So Far Gone, you know, the independent sector is like the place to be, and artists, give me your money to do this independent stuff because you could be the next Drake. And then you had other people on the panel who were getting in full-blown arguments because they like, yo, you cannot highlight Drake as an independent artist because he's technically not. He has all sorts of industry cosigns and features and production and stuff like that. He's not like some kid in his bedroom making music on his computer and uploading it through TuneCore. But that's the kind of like, that's what they were trying to sell to artists. And this is effectively what Spotify is trying to sell you. So you got Empire. Empire is considered a digital distributor, but the artists that they have on their platform, they basically got established acts. They got people like, what's this guy's name? Tyga, things of that, artists like that on their platform. Who else is considered a indie? The Orchard, which has like a lot of major major minor, right, independent record labels under their belt. So you got the Merlin collection of indie, and then you have us. Now, when it comes to us, they're saying that we account for like 26, I believe what they say, 26%. Right? Yeah, they say that the other 26% came from the independent do-it-yourself artists and also independent labels who license directly rather than through Merlin. This proportion has grown steadily in recent years. It was 15% in 2018. You know, now what's interesting to me here, right? Now, what's interesting to me here is that as the do-it-yourself sector jumps from 15% to 26%, and Spotify makes this, hey, look how much we paid to indies. They made they account for 50% of what we paid out. On the heels of that, they decided to implement a monetization threshold that would decimate the amount of revenue that's being collected by those same users. So to me, it's the equivalent of like your boss coming in and bragging that he paid you $100,000 last year when he slashed your pay in half this year. So like, yo, great news. First, I'm gonna just let you know, I'm gonna just tell you, your pay is going down by 50%. But I just want to let you know that last year, you made $100,000. You made $100,000 last year. This year, let's not talk about that. Let's focus on the good here. The good is that you made $100,000 last year. Let's ignore the fact that your pay is being slashed in half. All right? This is what Spotify is doing. Ignore, because really, and it's worse than half because they're only paying us for the publishing end. The publishing end is about 20% of what you're owed, right? So you're owed 70% of the revenue goes to the sound recording, and 20% of the revenue gets split between publishing and mechanicals. Now, if you guys are not registered with the Song Trust or a Centric, or which is owned by TuneCore effectively. So if you're not registered with TuneCore Publishing or Song Trust, then you are not getting any of the money that your music earns on Spotify. Right now, you can get half of it if you're like signed up with Song Trust or TuneCore Publishing or something to that effect. Not half of it, but 20% of it. You know, but if you're not signed up with those guys, then you're getting zero, you know, because it's like the MLC collects revenue for mechanical licensing, but it's exclusively for the US. So if you're getting streams in Germany or Canada or someplace like that, that money is getting slipping through the cracks and not going to you. Yeah, man. So that was one bit of news, right? Now, the other thing here was this. Impala calls on Apple to rethink spatial audio bonus, seek collaborative solution. Now, this is another thing that I talked to y'all about too. When I told y'all that Apple was gonna give a 10% increase to artists that was distributing music that was mixed for spatial audio. So if you distribute music that's mixed for spatial audio, they are going to give you a 10% increase on the royalties that you're owed. Now, what I said in the live stream when I covered it was, hey, they pay you from a pool of royalties, a pool that everybody gets paid from. And if they're increasing the pay of some people by 10%, they're decreasing the pay of everybody else by 10%. So if you don't do spatial audio, you effectively lose 10% of the money that you would make from Apple. It's basically like a re-engineered way of doing what Spotify is doing with funneling money to the major record companies. Because it's like they're the ones with the resources to be able to easily go and upgrade all of their past releases to spatial audio, and indies can't. So if they're giving 10% more, that means everybody else gets 10% less, and they can drive more revenue to major record companies. Now, Impala, they're like the Independent Music Companies Association, representing over 6,000 European independent labels and artists, has urged Apple Music to reconsider its recently implemented spatial audio bonus and engage in a collaborative dialogue to find a fairer solution for all stakeholders in the streaming landscape. The new policy, introduced last month, offers a 10% royalty increase for music available in spatial audio formats. Right? They say starting with January 2024 month-end royalty payments, pro rata shares for spatial available plays will be calculated using a factor of 1.1, while non-spatial available plays will continue to use a factor of 1, according to Apple Music. Now, while Impala acknowledges the potential benefits of enhancing listening experiences, they express concerns about the system's impact on independent players in the music industry. One key concern is the limited accessibility of the bonus for independent artists and labels. The boost in royalties is less accessible to independents. This can be due to the upfront cost involved when recording new tracks and having to remix already released repertoire. The organization explained in a statement on Tuesday. Impala argues that the current system creates an unfair advantage for major labels, who have more resources to convert their vast catalogs to spatial audio formats. Conversely, independent labels, often with smaller budgets and resources, may struggle to keep up with this additional pressure, potentially impacting their ability to compete and invest in their artists. So some may also choose not to use this format and simply as a creative choice. With Apple's revenue pool being finite, a multiplier for spatially enabled plays inevitably translates to diminished earnings for those unable to access it, which compounds the impact on independence, Impala added. Now, the reality of the situation with Impala, man, is that they have no power. So they can complain, but there's not much they can do about it. Like, they complained about the Spotify threshold. They wrote like a whole outline of all of the different things that Spotify could do and implement, but it's just for your consideration. Like, would you consider it? You know, and those guys could be like, no, I can't, and I will not. And that'll be the end of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's not much that they can do. I mean, I doubt if their artists are going to keep their music off of Apple Music. You know, it's like you want money from your streams, and taking it off would be $0 from your streams. So, I mean, the streaming game is getting real weird and nuts, you know, and it's becoming a situation where, yeah, we're going to have to find something new altogether, right? And I don't know what that will be exactly, but something new has to come, because this ain't it. And the alternatives that everybody's talking about with sell your music direct to fan, right? Sell NFTs, the blockchain, that's the solution. I don't agree with that, because listen, man, it's really difficult to sell music. And I mean, the reality of the business, but the reality of everything with music is people don't have to buy it. You know what I'm saying? It's not a product like let's say a sweater or something like that, where you got this sweater, you say, give me $30 for this sweater or you can't have it. And somebody has to give you $30 for the sweater in order to get that sweater. They could go and try to find another version of that sweater for cheaper, but they have to pay somebody for it, or get somebody to give it to them for free, which is highly unlikely, because everybody knows that they could get money for charging for the sweaters, right? So you got that situation with like physical products and other things that access is restricted to, books, things of that nature. But with music, that's not the case, man. You know, so it's like basically as artists, our biggest advantage in this is obscurity. If your music isn't popular enough to have a large amount of demand, then you're safe. Because if I go and I say, okay, well, I'm not going to put my music up on Spotify, YouTube, nowhere. I'm going to take little 30-second clips. I'm going to advertise it on Instagram, and I'm going to tell people, if you want it, buy it. That will work as long as there's a level of obscurity and people don't really know who I am, and there's not a lot of fanfare, where there's not a lot of people that want it. The minute that changes and I become popular and established, and there is a high level of demand for my product, people start uploading it to YouTube. And then it becomes a game of whack-a-mole, because now you got to report, hey, this is an unauthorized usage. This is an unauthorized usage. And they have to take it down and strike these accounts. And it's like, well, doing that, they don't even have that really accessible to the general public like that. So good luck even gaining access to be able to strike it. And a lot of the digital distributors, they take a percentage of the revenue that gets generated from content ID programs. So they want to monetize it. They don't want to strike it. They want to allow those uploads to exist there and just collect the ad revenue. Now, if you're saying, well, these places don't pay me no money, so I don't want my music there at all. I don't want to collect a percentage of the pennies. I want to restrict, to force people to have to buy. That's what I want to do. You can't do it, because people are going to take it, upload it to YouTube, and then it just becomes a matter of you got to accept a percentage of revenue, or You just accept the fact that you're not getting anything and people are consuming your music for free on YouTube. You know, because you got safe harbor rules, and safe harbor laws protect YouTube against being liable for anything uploaded to their servers that they don't know is there. So if I upload something with somebody's song in it and YouTube, they don't know that it's there, as if Content ID doesn't flag it, they're safe. You have to prove that YouTube knew it was there in order to be able to sue them. So the YouTube thing, the SoundCloud thing effectively ties artists' hands and prevent them from really being able to sell anything when it, like the music rather, when there's demand. So artists have to go and sell physical, right? You got to sell CDs, you got to sell vinyl, you got to try to sell merch, you got to sell concert tickets, things that can't be easily duplicated and given free access to. And those things come with upfront costs because you have to invest in CDs. And if you can't move them, then you're just stuck with CDs that you paid a whole bunch of money for and can't sell. Same thing with vinyl, which is an even greater investment. So it becomes challenging. So the solution is more so trying to figure out, okay, well, how do you create a better way to monetize free? You know, like the same way that Facebook and YouTube and Spotify is monetizing free. How do you create a similar system like that for artists whose music is freely accessible, but the free access is generating all this revenue? You know, that's like the key question that's gonna kind of like have to be answered. And it's something that I'm thinking about. It's something that I'm working on, you know, but hey, man, you know, it takes a village, right? All of us brainstorming and throwing ideas out there to really solve the problem. And with people saying that NFT is a solution, it's absolutely not, because there's just too much friction involved in the process. People don't have crypto wallets and all of this nonsense to be engaging with the blockchain like that. So that's not a solution either, man. But yeah, hold on. What else is here? Oh, nah, that's just silly. It's something about believe. Yeah, man. And also, man, we recently updated. Let me show y'all this. Yeah, we updated the reviews of, or the comparison rather, of DistroKid, TuneCore, and CD Baby, you know, on the website. What I got to do next is start basically wrapping up some of these other comparisons that I got. You know, people ask me to do DistroKid, TuneCore, and Venice to see how they compare, or CD Baby and Venice, or CD Baby and DistroKid, and all of these different things that people are asking me to do. So I'm going to break those down. All right, now let me get into the live chat. See what y'all talking about in there. If anybody got questions, if anybody got a topic they want to bring to the floor, you know, share. Shout it out. Whatever topic you got, whatever have you, you know what I'm saying? You got something you want me to shout out, you know, send a super chat. I shout you out. You got a release or something like that. It's all good, man. It's all up. All right, y'all. So let me check and see what y'all talking about in here. Shout people out. See what's good, man. So we got Zope Belafonte, my guy, was good, man. We got Long Distance Traveler in the building. Always good to see you, my guy. We got DPM Network Music Distribution. Nico's, what up? If you in the building, tap in so I can shout you out. Efeche Music was good, man. Good to see you. Jerry NRG, my guy, what up, man? Good to see you too, brother. Word, man. Let me see what y'all talking about. Yeah, man. Yeah, Long Distance Traveler say wow background. Yeah, I know, man. I'm working on stuff, man. You know, I'm about to switch rooms again, man. You know. Y'all don't dig the threads. Oh, this is, I don't even know what this is. This is like a 70s, I don't know what you would call it. Efeche says, a lot of poor artists use Amuse. This was helping them a lot. They're going to be broken. $40 a month was feeding their families. I mean, yeah, that's the negative side of it, right? Like I know a lot of African artists that were hitting me up, asking me like which distributor should they use, and they definitely was leaning towards Amuse. Now, that's for multiple reasons. One is that it's free, and the currency conversions are crazy, but on top of that, there is also a little known fact that these digital distributors are required to withhold 30% of the revenue that they're supposed to pay to anybody that lives in a country that doesn't have a tax treaty with the US government. And most African nations do not have a tax treaty with the US government. So that's pretty much only South Africa, I think, has a tax treaty with the US government. So as all of these digital distributors make this huge push into Nigeria and Uganda and all of these different places, the thing that fascinates me is that they've done nothing to solve the problems that these places experience in regards to paying for the service or collecting their revenue. It's just more exploitation. It's like they got the Afro beats thing popping and they come in there to kind of like try to extract more value out of Afro beats as opposed to coming and doing anything of value, because that's a huge problem. 30% tax withholdings plus the currency conversions and stuff like that, they getting killed, Now for us, we get 30% tax withholdings if we don't fill out a tax form. So that's a note for you guys. If you do not fill out a tax form with your digital distributor and they're US based, they have to, by law, withhold 30% of your revenue for taxes. But Amuse was allowing artists in Africa and those types of places to not be subject to that because they're not based in the US. So if artists used Amuse was effectively like, taxes is your responsibility. We're not having you fill out no W-9s or nothing like that. We pay you, you handle your taxes. So they didn't have to worry about 30% of their tax revenue getting withheld, But, they can still use Amuse. Or really, they can't, because it's not free, right? Now they got to pay $40 a year or $20 a year at least in order to be able to do digital distribution. And that's the thing with Amuse, right? Now that puts them on par with everybody else, which is like their service was subpar. And the only reason to use Amuse was that it was free, right? Like they have like the smallest supply of store. They have a small supply of stores. They have limited features. They give you limited statistical data, all of these different things. The only reason to use them was that it was free. Now that they're charging, they're going to have to upgrade that service substantially in order to compete. And the only thing that they announced, like in their statement, was that, hey, we've dropped Boost from $25 a year to $20 a year, which is like, $5 discount. What about everything else, Yeah, man. Zope says CD Baby Content ID. Shout out my guy Long Distance Traveler, man. Thanks for the support, my brother. He says he has a new release out. It's called Happy. Oh, you for real, man? Are you for real? Yo, that reminds me of a story, man. I was at a cafe one time, and a lady walks up. Matter of fact, it wasn't a cafe, it was a pizzeria. Right? And a lady comes in and she walks up to me and she like, you know who you look like? And I'm like, nah, who? She's like, you look like that guy Pharrell. And I'm like, Pharrell? What the hell is a Pharrell? She's like, Pharrell, that guy. He sings that song, Happy. I'm like, Pharrell? She's like, yeah, that's him. Pharrell. Isn't that like a diseased animal or something like that? You know what I'm saying? You look like that guy Pharrell. Fetche music, right? CD Baby Content ID for only $10 seems like the best deal for streaming distribution. It's not $10. So it's like the thing with CD Baby is that they take 30% of Content ID revenue. So it's $10 for digital distribution, like to get your music sent to stores and things of that nature. But Content ID is 30% of your revenue. So they take 30% of Content ID revenue. It's not $10 and you keep 100%. That's the caveat actually with a lot of these companies. They say 100% for some stuff, but then they take a percentage for things like social media and content ID. Efeche says, oh, now he's talking to him. And it's like, this is the price of free. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, free ain't free. You pay something, pay with your attention. You know, you watch advertisers get in front of you, say, hey, look at our brand. And that's how the soup gets made. You know, otherwise it would be, hey, everybody got to pay to access content and get information, which could shut out people who can't afford the content. And I think that's like the conundrum with me with a lot of this stuff, man. It's like, I want to have stuff freely available, right? Where you say, okay, I'm just sharing information. I just want to give information, you know, but then at the same time, you have, you know, time isn't infinite, right? So it's like time is a valuable resource and you don't want to feel used and you don't want to feel like you're wasting your time, you know, and you don't want to feel like people are taking advantage of you and things of that nature, man. So it's like you give the information, and if you want to make money and feel like your time is valued, which money allows you to do, then it's like you got to restrict access and try to force people to pay. And if you don't do that and you say, okay, well, it's free, but you guys could support if you choose, being honest, most people choose to not. You know, most people are gonna be like, oh, I could get it for free? Bet. You know, and they take it and they just run with the information and do whatever they do with it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a conundrum, man. Because if you slap a price, and this is the same thing with music, you slap a price tag on and people say, oh, now you're getting all uppity. You want to try to charge people. You know, I could actually get the information from anywhere. There's a whole bunch of places giving information on the internet. I ain't got to get it from you. You know, it's kind of like when you loan somebody $5 and then after they use your money for whatever it is they wanted to use it for, and you say, yo, man, you got my $5. They like, man, you still asking me about that funky $5? Right now it's a funky $5. You know what I'm saying? Before it was like they needed the money and it mattered, right? But now it's funky. That's the same thing with like information, man. It's like people want to come to you and ask you, hey, man, can you help me? Can you answer this question? Things of that nature. You say, hey, man, you know, support, pay something. And it's like, well, I don't even need to get the information from you, right? It's just a ridiculous cycle that we have here. Yeah, Jerry NRG said, streaming game has become a money grab or a bunch of zeros on the wrong side of the decimal. I mean, a streaming game is a hustle, brother. The reality of the situation, it's a hustle. You know, you have a situation where money is put in a pot and split between everybody that gets people to just listen. There is no real buy-in required. Like back in the days, people had to buy an album or buy a digital download. So people had to dig in their money, dig in their pocket and spend money. That's way more difficult to rig because somebody has to pay. You know, either the record companies got to go into iTunes and buy the records to jimmy the sales data, or they have to get fans to go and buy it. Those were the only two ways. But with streaming, they could literally go into a computer and just flick a switch. And now any artist that they want to top the charts could have 1 billion streams. It's as simple as that. You know, so when we talk about, oh my God, like they talk about how with streaming fraud, some of these companies basically take control of real accounts and stream music that they're paid to pump, and the real users are none the wiser. Dude, you cannot tell me that record companies aren't doing that. Like anybody that's a Spotify user, like I use Spotify from time to time. Dude, I be going in there, like, what was it, like the day before yesterday? I put on Spotify, like, and this is my on repeat playlist. And on repeat is supposed to be songs that you have repeatedly played consistently. And I put that playlist on, and it's all sorts of songs from like Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift and all of these artists in there that I never listened to. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how not only are they in my library at all, but in my on repeat? You know what I'm saying? Like I've been excessively listening to these songs, right? And it's like you have all sorts of songs popping up in your library and your favorites and things of that nature where you're like, how'd that get there? I don't even remember listening to this song at all. They can rig it however the hell they want, man. They got complete control. You know, same thing with removing songs and taking stuff down. It's at their discretion. Big Bank Reed, my guy, man. Always good to see you, man. You know, he says, finally shooting content to grow my TikTok to help funnel my audience to stream my music. I know I'm super late to the party. I mean, TikTok is ephemeral, man. Like it don't like create an audience that stick. You know, that's the thing with TikTok. People have fun with stuff, but I mean, you are a fun artist. So, I mean, you could probably do great there, right? It's like from your character to the type of content that you make, you should do really well there, man. Like, you know, I got to check you out, man. You need to link me so I could go and see some of the content that you're making because you should do really well on TikTok, man. Efeche said, I will stream happy to support him. What platform you want me to stream it? I mean, it should be on all platforms. Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, everywhere, right? Right? Long distance traveler, man, it should be. Zope says, is Bandcamp still a good platform in your opinion? Bandcamp was never a good platform, in my opinion. Bandcamp was just another store to put your music in. That's all it was. So it's like you distribute your music and they get it into all of these other stores. The same way they do that is the same way, you know, you got certain stores that you can't distribute to, like SoundCloud and Bandcamp. And you put your music in there. And if there's anybody that uses Bandcamp that want to buy it on Bandcamp, great. If not, then not. Now, when we talk about is it a good place to put music, you got to recognize two things with that. There is the place that you send people to consume your music, and there is the place that people want to go to consume your music. Now, you want your music everywhere people want to go to consume your music. So if somebody shops at Walmart, you want your music in Walmart. If somebody shops at Target, you want your music in Target. But if you have somebody that's coming to you and saying, hey, where do you want me to go and spend my money on your music? Then you send people to where you make the most money and where you know it's going to be easiest for them to make the sale. So you say, okay, well, damn, Target only pays me 10%. Walmart only pays me 10%. Those aren't places you would send somebody that you have the control to direct where you want to go. You know what I'm saying? Bandcamp takes 15%. And they don't do conversion tracking or optimization or nothing like that. So you would want that customer to go, you would send them to a Shopify page, right? Set up a Shopify page. It's like $1, you know, a month to have Shopify. So you got Bandcamp, which is 15% of your revenue, and they want to try to charge you $10 a month to access analytics. And then you got Shopify, which is $1 a month. You know what I'm saying? For you to sell direct to fan and keep 100% of what you make. Yeah, man. Yeah, long distance travel says it's everywhere and on YouTube, which is the most important to me. Yeah, he says YouTube is the most important platform to stream his music, man. But yeah, man, I enjoy talking to y'all, man. You know, as always, if y'all want to hit me up, y'all can. At PayUsNoMind on Instagram. At PayUsNoMind on X, formerly Twitter. Right? PayUsNoMind@gmail.com. This is Gift, signing off. PayUsNoMind. Peace, good people. One. Y'all be good out there. Dude.